Welcome to Real Estate Real Talk with Selling Salt Lake. I am your host, Marilee Rowley, and I'm so glad you're here today. Hello, I'm your host, Marilee Rowley, and in today's episode, I am being joined by Jane Draper.
Marilee, thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. And another one of our great agents, Whitney Glassman.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, thank you for joining me. I think this is going to be a really fun, very important discussion about one of the crucial steps in the home buying process, which can be a little scary, so it's important to break it down and understand it. We are going to be talking about the home inspection. Home inspections are very typical for residential purchases, and understanding what to expect during a home inspection is essential. It's an opportunity that the buyer has to uncover any potential issues with the property before finalizing the purchase. So it's really important to have a hands-on, boots on the ground understanding of the house and all of its systems. So let's dive in.
Well, Marilee, I think first and foremost, let's talk about exactly what a home inspection is. Essentially, it's a comprehensive evaluation of the property's condition, typically conducted by a licensed home inspector. During this process, the inspector will assess the various aspects of the home, from its structural integrity to its electrical and plumbing systems.
Now let's break down what you can expect during a typical inspection. The inspector will first start by examining the exterior of the home, including the roof, the siding, foundation, and landscaping. They'll look for signs of damage, such as a crack, leaks, or uneven settling, which could indicate potential issues down the line.
Yeah, and when the inspector is out there looking at the property in person, it's great to join them at the end to talk through all of the particular issues. It can really put a buyer's mind at ease because sometimes buyers think that an issue is going to be far more expensive than it actually is. So here's an example. I once helped a buyer purchase a house, and the western exposure, no, it was the eastern exposure. I don't know if that's important, but one of the sides of the house had stucco that was really cracked. And cracking stucco is totally normal, right? It's a cementitious surface, which means it's meant to absorb water and then repel it. So it was functioning as intended, except if enough water gets behind the cracks, that the tar paper behind the stucco gets saturated, then that black color can come through and stain the cracks. So it's normal to see cracks on stucco, but if they are turning black, then that means it's gotten pretty wet, and that can be a problem. So it was important to have the inspector there to say, these are the issues that are apparent. And then we had a stucco contractor come in and say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. This was a pretty big house. It was the whole eastern side of the house. It was stucco from top to bottom. And all of that stucco needed to be repaired and then painted to match the rest of the stucco. So a buyer is going to think, oh my gosh, that's going to be $10,000, But through this inspection process, it only cost $1,200 to have all of that stucco repaired. Wow. So that you couldn't even tell it had been a problem at all. So
that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's such good peace of mind for the buyer to know that what looked to be a big problem could be easily repaired.
Yeah, such a relief. I'm sure they were excited.
They were. Well, especially the seller was excited to know that it was only going to be that much because they were going to be the ones to repair it.
Yeah, and that wasn't a deal breaker.
Right. Yeah, we were able to work our way through it.
Perfect.
That's awesome. Another crucial aspect of the inspection is evaluating the home's mechanical systems, such as the heating and cooling systems. The inspector will test these systems to ensure they are functioning properly and identify any potential issues that may need attention. Now, I personally had an experience when I was buying my own home, and the HVAC vent was missing in one of the basement bathrooms. And my late husband was even a general contractor, and I'm a real estate agent, and we didn't notice. So it was good that we got a home inspection, and the inspector noticed, and the builder was able to fix that before we moved in.
Oh, that's a great example of something that's really easy to overlook, but that can be easily fixed if you have somebody point it out.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder how much that would have cost. I bet if we hadn't have noticed that vent was missing, it was a pretty big bathroom in the basement. I bet it would have cost us thousands of dollars to fix it later.
Well, I bet it would have, and especially when you consider, okay, you have to cut who knows how many holes into the stucco or the sheetrock, and then get it painted and fix the trim and all of that goes along with it. So, yeah, that's a very good example of why it's important to get a home inspection. Yeah. Okay, we have talked about the exterior of the house, which is really important. We've touched on the HVAC system, which is vital to the health of the house. Let's talk about what else they look at when they go indoors. I mean, they are looking at everything, and a good inspector is going to thoroughly inspect every room in the house. And they're going to check for issues with the walls, any cracking of the sheetrock that they notice, the ceilings, the floors, the windows, the doors. They're going to look at the plumbing, electrical outlets, the light fixtures, the electrical panel. They're just going to make sure everything is in working order. Now, I do think it's important to note that a home inspector is not necessarily looking for cosmetic damage. They're going to assume that you have seen that there is a crack in the countertop, for example, or that there is a hole punched into a door somewhere. They're going to notice those things, but they may not point them out because they're going to assume that that's noticeable by anybody who walked in, and also that it doesn't matter about the structure or the functionality of the property. The property is still safe, it's still habitable if it has cosmetic errors.
And they're also looking for code issues that maybe
great point.
Where the builder hasn't followed the code. They're especially looking for that. But the cosmetic things, yeah, they expect the buyers and the real estate agent to see those.
Yeah.
That a reasonable person would notice.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there's something egregious, like this part of the carpet is missing somehow.
Good point.
They are going to point that out. But they're not going to notice every chip in the paint.
Yeah.
I did have that happen in a closet one time.
Really?
Yeah, the carpet was missing. Huh. Luckily, we looked in the closet.
You never know.
Sometimes it's hard to spot those things because people have, things piled up on the floor. So it's hard to spot those things.
Yeah. That's true.
Oh.
Now, a good home inspector is not going to forget about the attic and the basement. These areas are often overlooked but can reveal important information about the home's overall condition. The inspector will look for signs of water damage, inadequate insulation, pest infestation, and structural issues.
I mean, and that's the last thing you want to see, right? Pest infestations. You want to know about those.
I don't want to sleep with termites or any critters of any sort.
So termites are not a big problem in Utah. However, in other states, they are a big problem.
Right.
Like my aunt and uncle did not know that they had termites, and they had to redo their whole floor.
Yikes.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so it's a serious issue.
It is a serious issue for sure. So, and that's one that you're not going to know about unless you get an inspection when you're buying a property.
That's right. And speaking of structural issues, it's good to know that the walls are considered structural and the footings are considered structural. And when it comes to the basement floor pour, if you get cracking in the flooring, they're acceptable unless they exceed a 1/4 inch. So that's important to know. If they're bigger than a 1/4 inch or uneven, then your inspector is most likely going to recommend further evaluation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I bet if you pulled back all the carpet and all of the flooring in a basement, you are going to find cracked concrete. That's just what it is. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Whitney. When those cracks get bigger than a 1/4 inch, you got to find out more information.
That's right. Find out more. So once the inspector has completed his inspection, he'll provide you with a report detailing his findings. It will include descriptions of issues in detail, and he'll usually make recommendations, for further evaluation.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a situation once with an inspector who luckily was licensed, bonded, and insured. Because something that a lot of buyers and even sellers don't really understand is that when an inspector is going through the property with a fine-tooth comb, sometimes damage can occur. And according to the real estate purchase contract in Utah, guess who's responsible to repair that damage?
The buyer.
That's right. The buyer is responsible to repair that damage. Buyers really don't understand the risk they're taking on when they schedule a home inspection, which is why we always recommend that you use an inspector who's licensed, bonded, and insured so that the inspector can take care of whatever damage they may have caused. So this was a terrible situation that happened one time, but we had an inspector who was putting a scope down a sewage line, a drain line in the home. And, if you've got a house with more than one story, then you have drain lines that are in the walls sometimes. And then they turn and they go underneath the house and out toward the sewer lateral in the street. Well, in this case, they were scoping a line that was on the main floor, and they were trying to turn a corner at the 90-degree turn in the pipe, and I don't know what that pipe was made of. Peanut brittle, maybe?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Something.
I know where this was going.
Yeah, and the camera actually punched a hole in the turn of the pipe, which, it was a major problem because it's behind walls. They have to take out the sheetrock. They have to repair the pipe. They have to repair the sheetrock. They have to repaint it. I mean, the whole thing, it's just expensive and inconvenient. But it happened, and, it's good for the buyer because if your pipes are made out of peanut brittle, then it's a good thing for you to know before you buy the house.
You want to know that before you buy the
buyer
house.
beware.
That's right. So luckily in this case, the inspector, was able to repair all the damage, and the buyer was able to negotiate some money off the house because there was an issue with the plumbing, and so just another reason why get a good inspector.
Yeah, for sure. There's another important aspect to consider that I think a lot of buyers don't think about when they're considering purchasing new construction is you need to get an inspection. There are also a myriad of specialty inspections and further testing that we'll often recommend. I'll rattle off a few. There's sewer scopes, there's sprinkler system checks, there's radon gas mitigation testing, there's meth testing, and those are all important to consider, and maybe we'll do another episode where we dive into those more. So let us know if you have questions about any of those.
Yeah, those are important and are easy to overlook. But to your point about new construction and meth testing, I always recommend it. I mean, you never know which contractors might be smoking meth inside the house, and I've had 2 new construction homes test positive for meth contamination.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
you want to be doing it. You just have to be checking.
Right.
Yeah, you want the builder or the seller to pay for the remediation,
Right.
or for repairs that you don't know about before you purchase a house. So a home inspection is very, very important. In conclusion, like I said, a home inspection is vital. Sometimes it's a stressful step in the home buying and selling process, but it provides you with valuable insights into the condition of the property and allows you to make informed decisions about your purchase. For most people, it is the most expensive purchase of their life. Wouldn't you want to spend $300 or $400 to make sure that you're making a good decision? It's well worth the money. That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Real Talk. Feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook to ask us any questions you have about real estate. And we will answer a serious question in a fun way.
That's right. Thank you so much, Jane Draper and Whitney Glassman, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And of course, huge shout out and thanks to our producers, Kat Aspel and Camaro Holt. We couldn't do it without you. We literally don't know how to edit.
Kat and Camaro, you guys are awesome.
The real MVPs in the house.
That's right. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We are real estate professionals who are dedicated to bringing you home.